Hello, and thanks for listening to your SCAMLE's exclusive podcast, ExplorED. On these episodes, you will enjoy exclusive interviews with some names you recognize and some people you'll be meeting for the first time. In each of our episodes, we will ask you to think and grow and reflect as a professional educator. If you aren't yet a member of SCAMLE, we encourage you to join today. More information can be found at www.scamle.org. There, find out more information about membership, conferences, and professional development opportunities. And don't forget to join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. My name is Sarah Evanson Atkinson, and I serve as the Professional Development Director for your SCAMLE. I am an educator of 21 years and a past SCAMLE president as well.
In this episode of ExplorED, I had the opportunity to speak with Kim Campbell. Yes, the Kim Campbell. After I got over my fangirling moment, I settled in for an important conversation about all things school. The questions we're facing right now are complicated and important, which makes conversations about solutions inherently difficult, because nothing is singular, simple, or smooth sailing. I kind of secretly wish Miss Campbell was my administrator or the teacher next door because I would compel her to be my vulnerability partner. Our conversation started out ever so serious. We live in serious times after all, but the laugh soon followed and our cheeks hurt by the end. Remember, Miss Campbell will be keynoting at the conference in March on both Saturday for a breakout session and Sunday morning. You would leave Myrtle Beach early. Why? Yes, we have to learn what to do about trauma. We have lived and are living inside of a moment of collective trauma. We must not be afraid to ask for help from and offer help to our mental health professionals. We are now on the front lines of addressing trauma in our adolescents. They're ready for our support. We can love the children enough to hold them up until the mental health pros have an appointment available. Please communicate with the mental health pros in your building and in your community. We need them. They need us. You never really know what you'll get when two seasoned educators get together for a chat on a Sunday afternoon, but it's worth it to listen to this one all the way to the end. Please help me welcome Ms. Kim Campbell to today's podcast. We are privileged to have with us today the one, the only Ms. Kim Campbell on today's ExplorED podcast. Welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me there in South Carolina. First of all, what's the weather there?
It is 40 degrees and off and on rain.
Okay, great. It's negative 22 here. So I can't wait to come to South Carolina.
Well, we're happy. We're so excited to be hosting. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners. So what do you do in education? How long have you served? And where do your professional passions lie today?
That's a great question. I have not had that question before about that passion. I love that because I think we need to be reminded of what our passion is all the time, especially now. But I'm Kim Campbell, and I'm just a proud middle school teacher and dean of students in a suburb of Minneapolis called Hopkins West Junior High, where we like to say Royal Pride on the West Side. I've been there for about 21 years. I've been in middle school for about 31 years. This is my first year, though, that I've not taught a class. And I have to tell you, Sarah, between you and me, I miss it terribly. So I am now in the administration realm. My goal is when I retire is to teach just a few more classes and end my career that way, because I love teaching. That's where my heart belongs. My passion, Sarah, has always been and always will be from way back when I started that to ignite the excitement of learning. I love that. I love learning new things. I love helping our children learn new things. That light bulb goes off, those types of things. I love that. And then I would also say another passion that I have is working with and it depends on the language you want to use. But, when public education was created, it was supposed to level the playing field for all of our kiddos. And that's not what has happened. And so I'm always advocating for those on the fringes, those that would be considered marginalized. So my passion is I just love kids. I love middle school kids, and they've cracked me up every day. So I'm very fortunate I chose to be a middle school educator.
Yeah, I agree. And there's no other place where you can work where you get such a menagerie of smells.
Yes.
I mean, I love middle school. Middle school is the best for that. I know you work as an administrator, and
yes.
roles, but that administrator role is is a unique one in that you have very specific tasks on your to-do list that you have to play in order to keep a school moving forward. What are the ones that are most important to you?
Well, I think that's a great question. And I think that in this environment that we're in right now, like we've never seen before, we've really, as administrators, had to kind of change what we do, how we do it, and at the same time, keep the ship kind of moving forward. And that's been a real hard balance. I'm not going to lie to you. And I would imagine every administrator out there will agree with me. But I also believe that as an administrator, you got to go back to what we say to our teachers all the time. And that's about building relationships. And that means building relationships with our staff, being willing to listen to our staff because they're scared, they're tired, all those things. And we have to listen. And at the same time, we have to be willing as administrators to take some things off of our teachers' plates. Some things that we have tried to do that is we don't have a staff meeting unless we absolutely have to have one. And instead of having a staff meeting, we have a Thursday between 3 and 3:30, a question and answer with admin if teachers want to come ask any type of questions, whether conferences are coming up and they're confused, whether they just want to talk about some safety protocol that they're not quite sure about. And we have found great success for that as well. The thing that we have tried is, I think it's been on social media a little bit called Tag Out, where basically principals will just kind of, we're in the hallways a lot and I'll walk into a classroom with about 20 minutes left and I'll just say to the teacher, hey, things are okay in the hallways. We're good. Why don't you go ahead and take off and I'll just cover the last 20 minutes. So we are trying to do things like that. But again, this is all new for all of us. And the last thing I would say, Sarah, is that we as administrators have to take care of ourselves too. That at the end of the day, we're human beings too, trying to make the best decisions we can possibly make. And some of them decisions we make, some are going to like and some are not. And yet, at the end of the day, I just need people, my fellow colleagues, to recognize my humanity, and I have to take care of myself as well. And that has been hard. There's no doubt about it. It's been really, really hard.
So this is hard work, but I think that you would agree that's rewarding work. I can't imagine doing anything else. I wouldn't,
Right.
The dental hygienist classes didn't pop up on my, on my, options for courses. I was a teacher born and bred. I was born that way. But there is a crisis amongst all of the other crises that are going on about, there are some colleges and universities who've had to just basically collapse their teacher prep program because they didn't have enough interest. And that just hurts my heart. Like when I hear and when I read those headlines, I don't even have to read the article. It kills my soul because I get so excited about this work. What do you think we do to fix this? What do you think? How do we turn this Titanic? I'm not sure I know.
I'm not sure I know either.
Oh no, we're in trouble then.
I'm worried. I'm worried too. I mean, I think, and I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but I'm going to say it. And Sarah, if you need to cut it. I had a colleague say to me the other day that I thought was really powerful. She said, we have battled being respected as a profession way before the COVID hit. And now that COVID has hit, it seems like we are really feeling the disrespect of, when we know that when COVID first hit, we were heroes. People were like, my God, I could never do this. And within 3 months, that whole narrative turned a complete 360 in which we're selfish. We are not, we shouldn't shut down. What do you need masks for? Come on, all these things. We're just kind of like, what is happening? What is happening? Which is so frustrating. So when you ask the question, like, what do we do? How do we turn the Titanic? I think that we have to, as administrators, be vulnerable in regards to, and the reason I say that is because our admin team, my admin team is pretty strong. There are 3 of us, principal, assistant principal, and then me as the dean. And we are very, very close knit, but probably about a month ago, we started to fall apart. We'd get into our admin meetings and we'd be kind of, snipping at each other and all those types of things until finally we just met as a team and we agreed that we would be vulnerable with each other and say, when do I need to step out? Meaning maybe I'm working with a difficult child and a difficult parent and I'm not getting anywhere. I have to be willing to say, hey, can you take this one? Another example is I had just the other day, everything was coming at me at once. And so eventually I had to say to the assistant principal, I need you to take some of these. And he jumped up and did. Now, what does that mean for our colleges that are collapsing and that teachers aren't going to do that? Until we, in the trenches, as I like to call it, help change the narrative, invite families into the schools to help. We need mental health workers. We need one in almost every classroom right now on what we're seeing, right? On what we are experiencing. I know on social media, there was this big thing called Dads on Duty. My school right now is looking into Dads on Duty. How do we get parents to come in and help us in these situations? But I think we'll ride this out. I think we'll be stronger than we were. And I hope, Sarah, my greatest hope is that we will look and do education differently based on what it has forced us to do.
I was at a conference recently in Atlanta, and the focus that I had sort of different tracks in the conference, and the track that I elected was basically mental health in the classroom. And the titles of some of the sessions that I went to were like equipping teachers to do the work of mental health professionals because they are now on the front lines, and and those kinds of things. And it was like, at first I was like, oh, I don't know about this. And as I get in these rooms with these mental health professionals who are like, look, in the past, I could work with these cases for you, but I can't. There's too many now. And so we're going to open the box. Like, we're going to let you peek inside. And here's what we do. Here's how you de-escalate a situation. Here's what you say to a child in crisis. Yep. And that was probably the first time. And I mean, I've got 21 years in the business. That was the first time that anybody said to me, Sarah, I know that you're working with kids on a daily basis. It's okay for you to say these things.
Yep. I love that.
I mean, I felt like really empowered. Like, I don't know if I can say that because the guidance counselor's not in today because, and it's like, no, but really we're human beings. Yep. And we've all been through this thing together.
Yeah.
So,
one of the things that I would add here, Sarah, if you don't mind, is I think what has happened to many of the districts that started, a while back, we all started getting speakers coming in to talk about trauma when it was just on the fringes, right? When we were just kind of seeing it, right? Now we have, instead of 1 or 2 children in our classrooms that have trauma, we have 10, 12, who knows how many in the classroom with trauma. And the one thing I would encourage people that are listening to this is that if you are going to have any PD around trauma, you need to make sure your kitchen staff, your bus staff, everybody learns about trauma. But the biggest mistake schools make is they teach you about trauma, what it is, what it looks like, what are the stats, but they don't take you to the next step like you were talking about in your PD. Okay, now I'm bumping right up against trauma. Here are some practical things I can do in that moment. And that's where schools, I think, are missing the boat. Yes, we know about trauma. Yes, we learn the stats about trauma, but now what does a trauma-informed classroom look like, sound like, feel like? And that's, I think, really, really important for us as educators. I don't know if it's going to become a breaking point until people realize we are the foundation of a democratic society is education.
Yes.
And it's crazy right now.
How do you get someone to understand that respecting you is a good decision? The vast majority, that is the truth. There are always outliers in every business you go to. There are bad doctors and bad veterinarians and, whatever. But the reality is that most of us are really good-hearted people who love children.
Yep.
That brings us then to this sort of next notion, which is, so if you shift the focus from leadership for a second to the teachers, at this same conference, there were a number of keynotes. Principal Caffelli was there and some others. And one of the comments that was made was, yeah, things are challenging right now. Things are difficult, and we're kind of in a mess. But the only people that are going to be able to fix this are looking at back at us in the mirror. And for a moment, all of the air went out of the room, and it was kind of like, oh, I was really hoping you were going to give me like the Cliff Notes version of like how this ends, instead of you putting responsibility on me.
Right.
As teacher. And I kind of looked around the room for a second, because in those moments, I'm always super curious. And I looked around, and everyone just kind of looked like, oh gosh, he's talking to me. I'm the one who has to fix it.
Yep.
What do you think teachers should be focused on right now?
Well, I think the first thing they have to focus on is their own mental health. They need to focus on taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? In my opinion, it looks like you don't have to grade everything. It's okay to show a movie.
Yeah.
And it's okay to turn your computer off at 5 or 4 on Fridays and not open it until Monday morning.
Yeah.
That you have to take care of yourself first, because I always live by this line, even as an administrator now, right? If my teachers are happy and healthy, the majority of my kids are happy and healthy. And if the majority of my kids are happy and healthy, then my parents are happy. And as an administrator, when my parents are happy, my job is a heck of a lot easier. And it's that whole trickle down effect of, I've always said that for as long as I've been in this business, that when my teachers are having fun, when they are loving what they're doing, everything else plugs along. Just like you said, Sarah, will there be outliers? Absolutely, there will be outliers, always. But I have never, if as a teacher or as an administrator, ever believed that I have to have 100% of my staff on board. I go with 80%, and 80% will make that bus just move along really well. And they can either catch up and get on the bus, or we're moving on without you. And so many times when I'm doing workshops, people will say, well, not all the teachers are going to get on this. Yep, you're right. But if I can get 80% of you moving in the right way, it's a good place to be. So I think that if we go back to what the teachers need, they need forgiveness. We need to recognize their humanity. They need to be vulnerable and feel comfortable coming to me. You know, the sad thing, Sarah, is this week alone, I have had 3 teachers come to me, and these are great teachers. These are those 80% that's on that bus that are saying, I'm taking a leave next year.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart. And yet at the same time, they got to take care of themselves.
Agreed. I know those, I have teachers in my office all the time, and because I have snacks, I think that's why they come, but they, but they'll come in there, and, the conversations lately have been ending in like really high emotion. And like you say, these are really good practitioners who are level-headed and kind and thoughtful and have the world under control for them, and the burden is heavy. We are looking forward to March, though, and having you at the conference. I'm so excited. So I'm eager for you to give us a sneak peek, a preview of what people have to look forward to.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I'll try to get you fired up for this big thing. So I am a firm believer in that I have survived 31 years in this because of 3 things. One is the power of laughter, right? Like you're not laughing with middle school kids. There's something, you're not looking hard enough.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Number 2 is the power of relationships. I love connecting with middle school kids, and I love connecting with my colleagues. They're some of my closest friends. I love them to death.
Yeah.
And third is just the power of change, the power of learning, the power of growing. I've been doing this 31 years, and I learn every single day. Yeah. And so, we're going to laugh together. We're going to cry a little bit together. We're going to play a little bit together. We're going to have some fun together, because you know what? The only alternative is, dropping it back. So
this is my favorite question. I know this is silly, but it's my favorite question. So if you were to recommend one resource, text, podcast, article, Netflix series, you name it, to listeners, what would it be and why?
Okay, so does it have to be serious, like relate to education?
No, of course it doesn't have to be serious. No, this is why it's my favorite question, because people say the
okay, I gotta tell you, okay. So I'm not much of a TV watcher, except when COVID hit.
Right.
And so it's like, what else do I have to do? So we heard through the grapevine that this show called Yellowstone was pretty good. Now I'm thinking that this Yellowstone is going to be like, oh, beautiful mountains of Montana. It's going to be just about these ranchers. Oh my God. Okay, listen, I'm getting a t-shirt that says, I'm going to wear it to school too. It's like, don't make me go Beth Dutton on you. Like I'm like, what is happening in this show? And then I am never, ever going to go to the Wyoming border between Montana and Wyoming. I mean, Sarah, I'm not going to do it.
The other day I was in a PD and bless her heart, she was super sweet, but it was an online thing. And so she put up this Google Doc and she said, could everybody just make some recommendations of things that I should immerse myself in because the snow's coming and I'm here in New Hampshire. And so like, I'm going to listen, all these people are like Ted Lasso and, like, and then someone put Yellowstone on there and they're like, but be careful and whatever. And so they get down to me and I'm like, 90 Day Fiance. And so she comes down to it. She goes, I'm not familiar with 90 Day Fiance. And I was like, oh, don't get yourself familiar with it, girl. You'll be addicted. She's like,
you got to hang in there and celebrate the small things, right? Celebrate the small things. Let yourself be vulnerable as an administrator. Let yourself be vulnerable if you're a teacher listening into this. We call it at my school a vulnerable buddy. And that's that one person that we have that I just let it rip with and they just listen. We all need those. So I'm excited to see all of you in person in the great state of South Carolina. And I'm going to bring some of this cold with me. So peace, love, and wheat thins. And here's a Y for Yellowstone. Oh my God, my face hurts from laughing. Oh my God.